Grand Canyon Expeditions, one of the largest outfitters within the park, has over 40 years of experience running trips on the Colorado River. Because the company runs only the Grand Canyon, the attention to every aspect of their expeditions is focused on how best to offer all of the wilderness and adventure available within the canyon while providing a safe and comfortable journey for every guest. Each cruise serves as an endless source of knowledge and information about the special wilderness guests discover only in the canyon. GCE guides are not only experts in the canyon's whitewater, but know also the important role that each individual plays on a river trip. Over the years, they've learned that memories of the trip's natural beauty set the backdrop for the true friendship and harmony created on the river. The difference between the patterns of daily life and the patterns of life on the river began to show at the very beginning, becoming, like the canyon itself, more and more exposed with each river mile. The change that takes place in every guest is the real difference at Grand Canyon Expeditions. Each feature of a GCE trip is tailored to the guest experience, from the waterproof bags and boxes provided for each individual to the customized gear boats complete with fresh food, drinks, and enough ice to last the length of the trip. Each detail has been considered and thoughtfully provided for. The trip itself can be done in two ways. Choose a motorized raft, large, stable, and built to challenge the most intense lines of the biggest rapids, or experience the waves on a nimble dory, a lively, dynamic boat whose design is patterned after the crafts used by Grand Canyon explorers from times past. All GCE trips travel the entire length of the canyon, over 280 miles. Only with the whole natural amount of time and distance that the canyon truly deserves is an Expeditions river trip ever complete. Co-owner Marty Mathis believes that the whole experience is best when framed with those things in mind.
People ask, what other rivers do you run? And I tell them I didn't know there were other rivers. We run Grand Canyon, Colorado River, 280 miles. Meals are inclusive, beverages are inclusive, camp gear is inclusive. All you need basically is a big smile on your face and something to wear, and we do the rest.
No matter which style of trip is decided upon, visitors to the canyon can be comfortable in knowing that the guides at GCE are the best in the business. It becomes apparent at the first introduction. Guests are greeted with warm smiles and friendly faces, and the impressions only get better from there. The crews radiate the type of competence and skill that makes them true professionals, on the water and off. Whether talking about the rapids, discussing geology, or explaining the intricate ecosystem that the trip has become a part of, every one of the GCE guides is thoroughly versed in the subjects at hand, including first-class culinary skills in the Riverside Kitchen. While the food isn't supposed to be the highlight of the trip, many guests return with fond Epicurean memories of their meals within the canyon. When all of these facets are brought together, something brilliant is created. Something as singular and special as a river trip with Grand Canyon Expeditions. Beneath the vertical cliffs of the Kaibab Plateau, Historic Lee's Ferry serves as a put-in for every GCE trip. Here, guests meet and greet one another, and the entire crew is on hand to begin the journey. An introduction to the gear, boats, and life on the river gets everyone ready for a great start. Once the trip is assembled, the crew helps to prepare the guests with a thorough orientation of their new, simpler existence, their river life that will soon begin. As the boats drift away from the sandy shoreline, excitement and anticipation grow with every ripple. The adventure has begun. Like a signpost, the Navajo Bridge arcs high above the water, signaling to its newest travelers that they are leaving behind their everyday lives. As the trip drifts towards Marble Canyon, marked by the awesome cliffs rising from the banks, another realm is entered. It is the beginning of Grand Canyon. Immediately after entering the canyon, there is an acute awareness of the stunning beauty surrounding the river. The drifting pace of the trip at this point is just right to let this new scale of grandeur begin to take hold. Here, the earth has painted an endless patina on the living rock, bordered only by sky. The lazy current of the river and lush groves hidden away in passing side canyons gently refocus perceptions to fit the new environment. Bighorn sheep and mule deer are just some of the wildlife that have made Grand Canyon home. These first miles are also an introduction to one of the greatest features of a Colorado River trip, the white water. For many visitors, the rapids at the beginning of the trip are an initiation into a never-before-seen world, a thrilling roller coaster of waves and foam. The first rapids of the trip are warm-ups, perfectly shaped riffles that help to prepare for the biggest rapids yet to come. Along the way, the confidence and camaraderie build. Nothing brings people together like running the white water of Grand Canyon. Along the entire upper section of a GCE trip, incredible highlights linger behind each bend in the river. It's discovered here that one of the biggest benefits to seeing Grand Canyon from the valley floor is the opportunity to explore its amazing side canyons. Stops at places like Saddle Canyon and Buck Farm are just a few of the perfect examples of the majesty and intricacy to be found just off the river. A trip to the Anasazi ruins at Nankoweap framed the river and its walls in ancient human time. At Red Wall Cavern, the river has turned the sheer rock into a gigantic natural amphitheater. Large enough to play a game of football inside, Red Wall Cavern is a true natural wonder. Whether a gentle walk along the river or a challenging trek up a side canyon, each step taken on a Grand Canyon side hike is rewarded with natural beauty and wonder.
Hiking was important to us, and it helped us decide what trip to take, and we have not been disappointed. There's been such a variety of hikes. It's just been fabulous. Some long and steep and some short and sweet, and it's just been an absolute highlight.
The side hikes on a GCE trip are one of the most satisfying surprises in the canyon. The upper canyon brings with it a sense of arrival. Visitors become less like guests and more like a group. The magic of the Grand Canyon here begins to take hold, and with it comes a change in every Grand Canyon expedition's guest, from canyon novice to river runner.
All the emotion that they go through, from intense excitement to the most peaceful and serene situation, all within a few hours from one another. And then just working together and becoming a family and floating together down the river and getting to know people is a huge, huge part of the trip too.
After winding its way through Marble Canyon for over 60 miles, the Colorado River makes its confluence with the Little Colorado before emerging fully into the Grand Canyon itself. Always a popular spot for GCE river trips, the Little Colorado offers river runners the opportunity to swim and explore in one of the river's most beautiful and significant tributaries. The unusual travertine dams and smooth boulders at the mouth of the Little Colorado form a natural water slide, perfect for seal launches and swimmers' chains. Rainfall from hundreds of miles away determines whether the Little Colorado will be azure blue or milk chocolate brown. The Little Colorado is a milestone for every traveler. The meeting of these two rivers marks a major transformation in the trip as it now floats on into the heart of the Grand Canyon. As they wind their way through the inner gorge, river trips discover the distinct power and beauty of Grand Canyon that is only accessible from the river. The awesome landscape surrounds the view in all directions, a panorama of geologic history. For many river runners, it is the furthest from civilization that they may ever be.
We're here at the inner gorge, and I'll tell you what, I'm soaking wet. We're getting a heck of a ride, and the beauty here is fantastic. I don't care where you look, you can look 360 degrees on this whole trip, and it's wonderful. I'd recommend it to anybody.
I don't know, unless you're here, you really couldn't put into words how gorgeous it is. It's just standing at the top looking down into this, which I've done before, doesn't do it justice. You have to be down here looking at it from right in the gut, and it's just incredible.
As the river cuts down through bare rock, older, harder layers of the earth are uncovered. What this means for river runners is some of the biggest whitewater rapids anywhere on the planet. They begin to come one after the next, powerful expressions of raw nature. With each mountainous wave, it becomes obvious the skill that the GCE guides truly have. The dories, with only a single guide at the oars and just a few river runners along for the ride, lithely dance atop the swells as the craft's bow heads skyward.
Running rapids in Grand Canyon, especially in dories, is just an incredible world-class experience. These rapids are world famous. We get to run stuff like Hermit, Granite, Hands, Lava Falls. These are world famous rapids. Some of the biggest whitewater in North America, probably in the world. And it's just absolutely a wonderful experience.
The big motorized rafts have their own way of dealing with things. With the size and power these rafts possess, they can run the huge parts of the rapids with confidence and stability. Motors on the stern of the rig are powerful enough to take on almost anything the Grand Canyon Rapids can offer up. With names like Hance, Granite, Horn Creek, and Crystal, the rapids that make up the inner gorge are full of big hits and continuous excitement.
Yeah, well, it's actually quite an experience to drive one of these big boats. They're very stable, and they offer a variety of seating. You can sit up front and get wet and really enjoy the fullness of the rapids, or you can sit more towards the middle and have less splash and be a little warmer and a little drier, and often we have people that switch from one place to the other throughout the day. There are a few rapids that are very challenging in any water stage to get a motor rig through. A lot of other times we can just kind of go down the middle and yahoo and have a great time in the waves and get splashed and cool off.
The inner gorge offers no limit to hikes available in the secluded side canyons that open themselves to the banks of the river. The GCE guides are experts at recognizing the flora, fauna, and geology that marks each trail, and have long been familiar with how best to explain each point of interest to groups of eager river runners. Grand Canyon Expeditions also offers several special interest trips throughout the season, highlighting the history, ecology, geology, archaeology, or photography opportunities in the canyon.
And on each of those trips, you'd have an expert along that would deal in that particular field and is there to talk with you and occasionally give talks, but most often just work with you and answer questions and go over things with the group or on a one-on-one basis.
Guests from beginner to expert can learn about and appreciate any of the subjects that are the focus of these trips. The experience of the inner gorge is unforgettable. The memories of a lifetime unfold around every camp, through every pool, within every grotto. The comfort and ease of river life permeate all who travel here, all who ride the river. There is a quiet peace and serenity around camp, the backdrop for all of the fantastic side hikes and exhilarating whitewater experience thus far. Already, stories begin to fill the canyon and take their place in the history of each and every canyon guest. It is a place where a GCE trip is most at home.
I think one of the most enjoyable things about being a river guide in Grand Canyon is in the evening when we're prepping out meals is to listen to people's comments as they kind of break off and they're sitting in their chairs and they're unpacking their gear, getting ready for the night, and to hear their explanation of what happened, what they saw, how big the rides really were, how wet they got. You know, it is unique, and it is truly a joy to hear them comment on that and see the smiles on their faces.
Some of the highlights of every GCE trip are the wet hikes, where water is as much a part of the trail as the rock it winds through. Steep, winding slot canyons bend their way up to spectacular desert plazas. Clear pools and dazzling waterfalls make for perfect lounges at places like Deer Creek. Gigantic flat stone benches at Matkatameba open to river runners after a short squeeze through a smooth slot canyon with the creek flowing underfoot. A steep hike up the side of the canyon soon opens to the waterfalls of Elves Chasm, offering an oasis full of places to play and relax.
I think when most people think about this experience, if they haven't had it yet, they think about the big river. They're thinking about boats going through big rapids, and they're thinking about sitting on this Colorado River and looking up at 5,000 feet of, rock above you. But for me, the secrets of the canyon really start to unfold when you get off the boat and you start hiking up a trail, or you start hiking up a stream bed to a waterfall. This is the desert, and you know it's the desert when you're here, but you can get off the boat and hike 100 yards up a canyon and you don't know you're in the desert anymore. And a lot of those places you just cannot access from the rim. And so you come down on a river trip and it's kind of your own private little hiking platform. From one Grand Canyon secret grotto to the next, and it just so happens that while you're on the platform you're having a really good time running some rapids and having fun during the day.
No river trip is complete without a stop at Havasu Creek. Brilliant blue waters, rich with minerals, create unusual travertine dams that speckle the creek. With terrace pools perfect for wading, swimming, and lounging, Havasu Creek is a natural playground for river runners, a truly awesome oasis. Thrilling rapids and exciting side hikes slowly give way to a growing realization among every river runner. With each passing mile, the boats are moving closer to Lava Falls.
I don't think there's any guides that don't just kind of go crazy for Lava Falls, and I don't know what it is about the rapid, but there's something beyond just the fact that it's another rapid in Grand Canyon. It has its own spirit. It sort of sits out in a section of the Colorado River it's all by itself. And you've been floating quite a bit of flat water by the time that you get to Lava Falls. And I don't know whether it's that or just the fact that Lava Falls is so big that many of us down here just, no matter how many times we've run this rapid, it still remains a mystery to us, and it still remains a really exciting part of our trip as guides.
Massive pour-overs, swirling eddy lines, thundering holes, and exploding waves all combine to make one of the best drops in the world, the final piece of a river trip that has everything. Below Lava Falls, the character of the river shifts once again. Like the trip itself, the river is ready to relax and meander. Fantastic side hikes and bizarre rock formations now open themselves to a wide vista. Here, the canyon is just as likely to offer a relaxing